Hey everyone, welcome back to the Preset Biz channel. Today we're going to be doing a remake of Yarimov's song Supersonic, which was requested by one of you, and we're going to run through the verses and the drops in two parts. So let's dive into FL and start making the verses. So the first sound we're going to cover is the bass, which is at the start, which plays on top of a re-space, but this is the first synth. So it's kind of like an ambient bass texture, just to add a bit more depth to the whole sound. And what I've done is use this preset called Home from Car Music Volume 4, and then I've turned the wet amount further up. So basically it's full wet reverb. And this is the MIDI we've got for the bass. So obviously now we're going to add the forefront sound, which is the main re-space. And this is a preset called Reese Wasted from Car Music Volume 4 as well. Really sick pack for re-spaces. And we're playing just the bottom octave, and this is how it sounds. It's a really deep, gritty sound. I love it. So good. And so on our processing for the re-space, we've got some BX Digital, which is adding the width that we want for this sound. And we've got everything below 100 Hz in mono, so everything's pinned so you don't get any weird mono phase issues at the bottom end. And as we've got both sounds running through this same insert, what I've done is just put a small reverb to kind of glue the sounds together and just fit them in the same space, essentially. So this next preset is called 1-0, and it's basically a pluck which is playing an ambient kind of pluck in the background. Again, we've got a lot of wet on the reverb, so it's sitting more as like a background element in the mix. And it was actually really hard to find out what the notes were playing in this pluck sound because it's such a subtle element in the original song. But I think this is roughly what the MIDI looks like, and this is how it sounds. So this is what it sounds like altogether so far, and you'll notice the pluck is so minimal that you almost don't hear it. So it kind of fills in gaps here where you haven't got a second chord on that fourth beat, which is a nice little effect to keep the background interesting. The next element is a hi-hat, which I've taken from Car Music Volume 4. And this is a really simple closed hi-hat. It's kind of just ticking over the start of the song and just establishing a bit of rhythm all along. And we get to this section here where the build starts and we lose the pluck. We lose the pluck and then a snare comes in. And so I decided to pick out this snare sound here from Piano House Volume 1. I just wanted a really 909 kind of snare sound. So I've just laid it out on the arrangement, and as you can see, it's just doing simple beat stuff here, 4 on the floor, and then we've got some 4 on the floor repetitions, and then you get rid of that fourth beat, so it's kind of like this. But then it's interesting because we've got some channel pitch stuff going on where it's kind of rising and then it falls again and then rises again, and it just keeps the whole snare feel interesting and just really builds up the hype. Next up, I've got some risers in here from Car Music Volume 2, and this is like a really simple triangle / square wave riser. So it's a cool sweep to just add a lot more like depth and dimension to your whole builds. And then I'm going to beef that up with this other one from Car Music Volume 3. And this is just a purely noise one which opens up, which is nice. Just adds, again, a lot more hype and energy to the whole build. So as you can see, we've got some automation here for channel volume on both the serum channels and then also on the reverb. So basically it's cutting everything out completely, and it's just going to be totally dry before the drop. So this pre-drop section here, it's just got space for the vocal, and then the fill that we're going to plug in a minute. And so finally we're going to move on to this fill section here where I've just put in number 5 from Car Music Volume 3. And it's basically a cowbell fill which I've just cut around a bit more to fill it. So obviously the only part that's missing now from this whole build section is the bass that gets introduced here. But as we haven't covered the drop yet, we haven't got the bass line to plug in here. So what we'll do is we'll work retrospectively, and in the next episode we'll just be plugging that bass line back in the build. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure to do so you don't miss out the next part on Friday where we'll be making the drop for this. But let's go and take a listen now without any further ado, see what we've got, and I'll see you guys on Friday.
Supersonic. So supersonic.